Key point 1. In a competitive industry, teamwork is more important than finance, strategy, and even technology because it is the difference maker. When everyone in an organization moves in the same direction, they can achieve dominance in any industry at any time, irrespective of the size of the competition. In reality, the fact remains that teams, because they're made up of imperfect human beings, are inherently dysfunctional. Hence, the powerful nature of teamwork is often canceled out by its rarity. It's difficult, but not impossible, to build a strong team. Teamwork comes down to mastering a set of behaviors that are at once theoretically uncomplicated, but extremely difficult to put into practice on a daily basis. Interestingly, these behaviors are multifunctional and cut across different fields, from business to religion. The 5 dysfunctions of a team are absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. You need to assess your team to know the type of dysfunction it may be experiencing. Problem identification is the first step to seeking real solutions. Keep in mind that you cannot solve a problem or fix a system with the same mindset that created the problem or system in the first place. Getting out of a quagmire can be difficult. A talented executive staff in a company may be the bane of the organization if they feel their personal abilities are more important than the big picture. For things to change, there must be a decision and resolve to work the problem. Until they are willing to get their act together and row in the same direction, any dysfunctional team will continue to spiral down the drain until the company dies. The ideas in this summary will reveal what's causing disruption in your team and offer strategies for tackling the abnormality. No matter your position on a team, this summary can help you improve in your role. You can also tap into the real power of teamwork, achieving more than individuals could ever imagine doing alone. Key point 2. Purposefulness and intentionality must combine with courage to act if anything meaningful is going to be achieved. A change agent cannot afford to mess around. The most important thing is to have the courage to act. There will be important people on the team who want things to stay the same. They're going to kick against any changes in the status quo. Remember, trust is the foundation of real teamwork. Team members need to be open to one another if the team will succeed. They are vulnerable and have the courage to admit their faults and fears without being scared of judgment from other teammates. Sometimes, during meetings, people hardly disagree with each other. This would be good if the organization was growing and everything was working effectively. It would be an indication of team cohesion. In a dysfunctional team, however, everyone does what is right in their own eyes, and they try to steer clear of each other's space. This is not healthy. Creating an atmosphere of trust requires getting naked with each other. Personal histories that are non-intrusive are a good way to go about this. Hometown, number of kids in the family, interesting childhood hobbies, biggest challenge growing up, first job. These are a few examples of questions that unwrap personal histories. Individual behavioral differences are next in line. Diagnostic tools such as the Myers-Briggs indicator can help with this exercise. It helps to know the ways by which other team members are similar or different to you. The implications of being an introvert versus an extrovert and other similar qualities should be considered. Different people have different interpersonal styles at work, and every successful team must find the right way to blend all these styles. It is also good to talk about operational issues while discussing behavioral styles because it helps to see how these behaviors manifest in the workplace. Building trust requires that we overcome our need for invulnerability. To do this, you can demonstrate vulnerability in a low-risk but relevant way. For example, you can ask every member of a team to identify their biggest strength and weakness in terms of their contribution to team success. Key point 3. The ultimate dysfunction of teams is inattention to results. Advancing personal interests typically comes at the expense of the goals of the entire team. Team success must always come before personal ego or aggrandizement for a functional team. When everyone is focused on collective success, there won't be room for ego or selfish interests. In team sports, for example, the final score is the goal. It determines whether your team has won or lost. In the end, bragging rights come from the final score and not individual performance during the game. How has your performance during the game contributed to victory? While the score for a company may appear to be profit, it is an abstract goal to set, and it requires waiting until the season is almost over before knowing your fate. Simplify the goals by writing them in terms of things you can measure and act towards. For example, instead of setting a goal of making a profit, state how much profit you want to make. Then map out daily activities that must be accomplished to achieve that profit value. Remember, create a list of results categories that might serve as the team's scoreboard. Minimize the list of results as much as possible. Decide how periodically you want to measure these results. It could be weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. Avoid politics that can hamper team success. When teammates are trying to be politically correct, it leaves problems unattended until it destroys the team. Fear of conflict is a team dysfunction that comes from an absence of trust. When there's no trust within a team, they would not engage in open, constructive, ideological conflict. Key point 4. Lack of commitment and the failure to buy into decisions is a team abnormality that manifests as ambiguity. When people don't unload their opinions and feel like they've been listened to, they won't really get on board or commit to any new decision. Without committing to the plan, it will not come to fruition. Allowing people to air their views should not be confused with seeking consensus. Consensus would be terrific if it's achieved quickly and naturally. In reality, consensus doesn't work this way. It easily becomes an attempt to please everyone. Some teams get paralyzed by their need for complete agreement and their inability to move beyond debate. Disagree and commit. Even when you disagree at first, you can commit to the final decision. Don't forget, by and large, people will only buy into a decision if they have been able to weigh in. The fifth and final dysfunction is avoidance of accountability. This dysfunction manifests as low standards. Once clarity and buy-in have been achieved, then it's possible to hold team members accountable for what they signed up to do, for high standards of performance and behavior. The problem is that team members want to avoid interpersonal discomfort that comes from demanding accountability from your peers. Another reason that makes accountability hard is that people are not going to demand accountability for a plan they have not bought into. Working through the 5 dysfunctions of a team requires consistency, courage, and humility. A commitment to the development of right behavior will produce collective success. Key point 5. A commitment to a defined set of principles over a long time produces teamwork. A good team is not made up of perfect people, but people who are able to commit to simple rules that will engender success. This commitment begins with an acknowledgement of your fallibility as a member of a team. The 5 dysfunctions are inseparably linked so that insusceptibility to one opens the door to all others. There can be no foundation for trust if team members are not genuinely open with one another about their mistakes and weaknesses. The fear of conflict, the second dysfunction, comes from the failure to build trust within the team. Teams need to have trust for them to engage in unfiltered and passionate debates of ideas that will move the group forward. The fear of conflict makes them resort to veiled discussions and guarded comments. A lack of healthy conflict leads to the third dysfunction, lack of commitment. Team members will not commit to decisions that they have not been able to give a real opinion on. They may pretend to agree during meetings, but they won't follow through because their hearts aren't in it. Team members avoid accountability, which is the fourth dysfunction, because they have not committed and bought into the plan. It's difficult to call your peers out on actions and behaviors that seem counterproductive to the good of the team if you have not really committed to a clear plan of action. When there's a lack of accountability, the fifth dysfunction, inattention to results, will rear its ugly head. This happens when team members put individual needs such as ego, career development, or recognition above the collective needs of the team. To allow one dysfunction is to open the door to all 5. The model for overcoming the 5 dysfunctions is to invert the dysfunctions into a positive one, cohesive teams. Trust one another. Engage in unfiltered conflict around ideas. Commit to decisions and plans of action. Promote a culture of accountability to the plans. Focus on the achievement of collective results. While these may sound simple, they are not simplistic. Indeed, practicing them requires high levels of discipline and persistence. Key point 6. Trust is the lifeblood of any functioning, cohesive team because it creates an atmosphere for effective work. The conventional definition of trust is predicting a person's behavior based on what they've done in the past. Real trust is believing someone has your back, irrespective of their actions. In the context of building a team, trust is the confidence among team members that their peers' intentions are good and that there's no reason to be protective or careful around the group. Lencioni. How can a team build trust? Vulnerability-based trust doesn't happen overnight. You need to understand the unique attributes of team members, know them personally, and promote credibility. The process can be accelerated by trying the following. Carry out a personal history exercise. Team members can take less than an hour to share personal stories that are not so sensitive with each other. Things like number of siblings, hometown, unique challenges of childhood, favorite hobbies, first job, and worst job are some personal stories that can be shared. A team effectiveness exercise helps to identify the single most important contribution that each member of the team makes to the team. It must also find one area that they must either improve upon or eliminate for the good of the team. Identify the personality type of each member of the team. A 360-degree feedback helps team members make specific judgments and provide one another with constructive criticism. However, it must not be tied to compensation or any formal performance evaluation to be effective. Experimental team exercises are valuable tools for enhancing teamwork as long as they are layered upon more fundamental and relevant processes. These tools and exercises must be supported by regular follow-up in the course of daily work for their results to be sustainable. Atrophy can lead to erosion of trust. The leader of the team must lead the way in building trust by genuinely displaying vulnerability and creating an environment that doesn't punish vulnerability. Did you know the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, is a profiling tool for understanding the personality and behavioral preference profiles of people? Key point 7. Conflict is beneficial to relationships that last a long time. Conflict is inevitable in all kinds of relationships. When there's trust in a team, they are able to disagree within a space. Knowing you will not be punished for being intense or passionate will encourage you to commit to the group. There are two types of conflict: interpersonal conflicts and ideological conflicts. The latter focuses on disagreements that arise from ideas, while the former is an attack on personalities. They look alike because they portray the same emotions but do not yield the same results. To develop the ability and willingness to engage in healthy conflict, the team must acknowledge that conflict is productive. Here are some simple methods to make conflicts more common and productive. Mining. This involves extracting buried disagreements within the team and shedding the light of day on them. The team must be willing to stay with the conflict until it's resolved. Real-time permission. When debates become heated, people tend to withdraw. It's important to remind them that the debate is needed for effectiveness. This drains the tension from a difficult interchange, giving the participants the confidence to continue. Other tools. An instrument that helps team members to become more strategic in approaching conflicts is the Thomas Kilmann Conflict Model Instrument. Leaders must guard against the tendency to interfere during conflicts in a bid to protect team members. It's better to allow resolutions to occur naturally. A leader must also model appropriate conflict behavior. Key point 8. People commit to clear goals that they have helped to develop. While there may have been differing views on the build-up to a decision, great teams commit totally to the final decisions reached. Having weighed in on decisions, the superior argument must prevail. Where there is an impasse, the leader of the group ought to be trusted to make the call. To ensure commitment of team members, explicitly review the key decisions made during meetings. Use clear deadlines. Discuss contingency plans up front, and demonstrate decisiveness in relatively low-risk situations. The leader must come to terms with the possibility of being wrong about certain decisions, must push the group for closure around issues, and ensure that the team sticks to schedules they have set while placing less emphasis on consensus or certainty. A team that creates clarity around direction and priorities aligns the entire team around common objectives. That way, they develop an ability to learn from mistakes, take advantage of opportunities before competitors do, move forward without hesitation, and change direction without hesitation or guilt. Remember, accountability in a team means courageous confrontation of your team members on behavior or performance that affect the outcome of the team. Calling colleagues on performance or behavior is possible only when the expectation is clear. When team members are afraid of hurting the feelings of their colleagues or causing friction, they shrink from demanding accountability. The result will be a dysfunctional team that is rife with resentment, differing performance standards, mediocrity, missed deadlines, and an overburdened team leader. Conversely, a team that holds one another accountable ensures that poor performers feel pressure to improve. These teams identify potential problems quickly by questioning one another's approaches without hesitation, establishing mutual respect by holding everyone to the same standards, and avoid excessive bureaucracy around performance management and corrective action. Ambiguity is the enemy of accountability. Hence, publicizing the goals and standards of the group is essential so that no one can easily ignore them. Team rewards must be replacing individual rewards so that team members can push one another to pull their own weight. A leader must create a culture of accountability, but be mindful of the tendency to relegate it to a consensus approach. When the team fails, the leader must be the ultimate arbiter of discipline. Key point 9. Prioritizing personal objective over team goals is the ultimate dysfunction of teams. What happens when a company lacks a culture of accountability? An absence of accountability is an invitation to team members to shift their attention to areas other than collective results. Patrick Lencioni. The result is a clash of objectives. Individual goals or interests contradicts and obstructs collective success. Thus, two metrics at play here are team status and individual status. What does a team that's focused on collective results look like? They retain achievement-oriented employees. They minimize individualistic behavior. They enjoy success and suffer failure acutely. They benefit from individuals who subjugate their own goals or interests for the good of the team. They avoid distractions. Public declaration of results encourages teams to work passionately and desperately to achieve good results. Tying rewards to results is a source of extrinsic motivation for team members to achieve specific outcomes. The leader must show clearly that they value the achievement of specified outcomes more than anything else. They must be selfless and objective, and reserve rewards and recognition for those who make real contributions to the achievement of group goals. Conclusion. Successful teams display high levels of discipline and persistence. They behave like soccer teams where different players bring a unique set of skills on board to help the team win the game. While exceptional players get some individual laurels, these accolades are subsumed in the team's collective success. Interestingly, the teams that win are not always the teams with the highest number of individual talents or resources. They are usually the teams that have been able to overcome the 5 dysfunctions that plague most teams. Certitude, difference of opinion, dedication, responsibility, and a commitment to results must be present in every winning team. A lack of any one of these cultures in a team will eventually lead to the loss of the remaining 4. Meaningful results can come only if these cultures are taken together. The nature of trust needed for an effective team is absolute confidence that your teammates have your best interest at heart, even when it doesn't seem that way. Interpersonal discomfort disappears when a team has a culture of trust. They are able to have ideological conflicts that are necessary to achieve laudable goals. The leader of the team must be ready to make the necessary sacrifices to make the team work. They must have the right blend of discipline and compassion that allows them to show empathy without derailing the team from the results they are trying to achieve. Irrespective of your position in a team, you can help your team overcome dysfunction and retrace their steps and get back on track. Try this. Carry out a quick assessment of your organization using a piece of paper and a pen. Create 2 columns on the piece of paper. On one side, write out what you think is the most prominent dysfunction of your team. On the other side, write out what can be done to tackle this dysfunction. If you're not the leader of your team, state how you can encourage your team to identify and tackle this dysfunction.